Hi, I'm Ashley.
And I'm Bree.
We're the PR team
behind the Theatre Downstream.
For our 6th season, we wanted to get to know the people behind the characters. We wanted to get real. For our final interview, Bree got to sit down with Laura Adams, the actress who plays Melissa in He Needed Killin. Laura and Bree talked about fight choreography, what it's like to play a character you may not understand, and who she would cast as Bill in the movie version of He Needed Killin.
Well, welcome to Getting Real.
I'm glad to be here. Thank you.
What is your name and what character do you play?
My name is Laura Adams, and I play the character of Melissa, who has a last name. Her name is Melissa Hilton.
What is your day job?
I'm a teacher. I teach English at Henry County High School.
How long have you been there?
This will be my 6th year.
What is the best part about your job?
I think it's the problem solving in people, because I love working with people, and I get to work with people all day long and solve really complex problems.
Is it your dream job?
I think, yes, it is. It's a dream job I never really knew that I wanted. And then later, because I came to teaching as a second profession, and then once I finally was there, I was home. And now I know I will always be doing that in some capacity.
Do you want to talk about what you did before teaching?
Yeah, I worked at the university level. I was an academic counselor, and I worked in admissions also, and I recruited faculty. So
where was that at?
At University of Phoenix.
What did you want to be when you grew up?
A lawyer. How boring is that?
That's not boring.
That's so boring. Well, no, I know some lovely lawyers. I do. So, but yeah, I thought that I would want to do that. And then I actually did take the LSATs at one point, and I studied for it, and I was so bored with it. And I thought, this is just miserable. And I'm sure law school might have been a little bit better, but I couldn't imagine doing that. And so I gave that up.
So what is your family situation?
I am married to a lovely man named Ian Duncan. We do not have the same last name, and that confuses some people, but we're both happy. And we have a precocious and fun and interesting 6-year-old daughter named Margaret.
She is fun. She's something.
She is. Sometimes she's a girl, but most of the time, honestly, she shapeshifts. And so we don't know if we're going to have a dragon or a puppy or a kitty, or she could be anything at any time.
Give me a good Margaret story.
Oh my gosh. Well, this is pretty recently at camp. Okay, so she loves to learn new words, and we had been reading, or I guess, I don't know if we were reading a book, but we were talking about feelings, and she has lots of big feelings. And so when she's obviously having a big feeling, I'll say, oh, looks like you're having a big feeling. You know, are you feeling sad? Are you feeling angry? And we try to identify it and talk through it. And so she had just learned the word melancholy, which is a really fun one when you're 6. And so she's learned this word melancholy, and we'd gotten back from drama camp, and I was tired from wrangling, what do we have, 70 campers this year or something? They were delightful, but yes, I was very tired at the end of the day. And so we would come home, and I would kind of expect her to entertain herself or play or read or whatever. And I hear her in her room singing, and I don't remember the melody of what she was singing. It was just a song she was making up. But she said, "Mommy wants to rest, rest, rest. That's why I feel so lemon-colly." And so she mispronounced melancholy as lemon-colly. It was hilarious to me. I love her mispronunciations, and I have trouble now. I want to say lemon-colly instead of melancholy, but that's my girl.
I have a family member who, when she was little, she used to always say that she wanted to be a calipitter. And now it's like a family thing. We always call them calipitters.
Yeah, we don't call them.
It sounds right.
It does, and after a while, you just don't want to say it any other way. Like the remotes, she has, like for the TV, she's always called them gramotes, so we call them gramotes. It's just, I love that part of watching her grow up.
My little brother, I don't know how he misunderstood this word so much, but he used to love, my grandmother was very, very nosy, my great-grandmother, when she was living in the house that we're living in now, and she would take binoculars and would look up the street and would see what was going on. And my brother Logan just loved that. He thought it was amazing. So he would get his binoculars, and he'd be like, "Granny, can you hand me my alligators?"
Oh.
And they were his alligators.
Yeah.
Ruth says the secret to a happy marriage is boundaries and how to set them. What do you think the secret to a happy marriage is?
The biggest one is respect. to me. I think in any relationship, if a partner loses respect for the other person, nothing else can be built on top of that. But boundaries are really important too. My husband and I kind of joke a little bit, but we have our own separate checking accounts. We have one joint one where we pay all the bills from the house and everything, but it is really important for us to have some independence with our own money too. So that's one of the ways that we set boundaries. And I think you have to have respect for that person or you can't move forward from a place. And I saw it, and I'd always kind of thought that. And then I remember I was watching a show one time, or maybe reading an article, but it was about how these psychologists were bringing in all these different couples and observing them, and they could predict with an alarming rate of accuracy which couples would be split up, like newlywed couples. And they were looking at little things like eye rolling. And they said eye rolling is an expression of disrespect, that you're disrespecting the other person. And so I don't know. I thought that was pretty interesting information. I always love to read things like that. It gives me, you never know where you're going to need that crazy piece of information, especially as a teacher. Sometimes I can rope my kids back into what we're doing if I can link it to an interesting story or something.
The one that I saw with that one, it was my interpersonal communication class. And we talked about that one. Have you seen I think it was published in New York Times. I might be wrong about that. But it was the questions, and it was a series. It was split into, I think, 3 separate sections. And it was, by the end of this, you will fall in love with this person. Have you seen that?
No, that is really interesting.
Yeah, it's really, really neat. What brought you to the world of acting and community theater? So what is your origin story?
My X-Men origin story.
Yep.
Okay. So when I was little, I always liked to put on little plays with my cousins and stuff in my grandmother's basement. But it wasn't, I guess, until I was in 5th grade that I really started doing anything with it. I was I was Goldilocks in kindergarten. We did these like different, and I had blonde hair then. I don't have blonde hair anymore, but I did have blonde hair when I was in kindergarten. And I remember that was an interesting experience because my teacher, I guess, was really nervous that I wasn't going to be loud enough. But then I remember being really nervous when we would rehearse it at school. But then when we did it in front of the parents, I suddenly wasn't nervous anymore. And I just, I said my lines really loud. And I think my teacher was pleasantly surprised that I'd come out of my shell a little bit. But then in 5th grade, I was in The King and I at Henry County High School. That was a gazillion million
big show
years
for
ago.
a 5th grader.
Yeah, I was Princess Ying Yowalak, which I guess was one of the only named children except the prince. And the only reason I was named is because I got to read that little letter to Anna when she was leaving. But anyway, so I was in that, and then I did a little workshop at Stage 1 and did some stuff in high school. I did quite a few plays in high school, actually. And then I loved the camaraderie of theater, but also the idea of being in the moment. I'd always been kind of a daydreamer and focused on the future, very future-oriented. But when you do theater, it really forces you to pay attention to what's happening in the present moment. And to me, that was a little bit of a relief to be able to focus like that.
Yeah.
You have to, or it all falls apart. So that's why I liked it and stuck with it. And so I ended up majoring in theater in college, but only because I wanted to do it all the time. I never thought I would be able to make a profession out of it, although I think I had a professor who was as encouraging as he could be, knowing that you're getting into something that's really heartbreaking and difficult. And I have had friends who've gone on to do professional work, but the truth is I just couldn't have that kind of instability in my life. When you do professional theater, you basically get laid off every 6 weeks, and you're always looking for a new job, and that's just not me. That's not what I want to do. So now I just do it for fun.
Do you have a dream show or a dream role?
Dream show or a dream role? We've already kind of talked about this in the past, Brie.
We have the same dream role.
I know. Well, I would really, I've always loved Velma Kelly in Chicago. I just think it would be really fun. It's really fun to be bad, right?
Yeah.
It's fun to be bad on stage. And so I would enjoy that. I mean, I don't think that's ever going to really happen, but that would be a lot of fun. I can think of a lot of roles that would be really fun. I don't know. I love the musical Mamma Mia. I would love to be in that one someday, but just because I love to dance, and I rediscovered that in Wizard of Oz last summer. I had danced growing up and then came to the audition for Wizard of Oz intending to only audition for the witch. So I wasn't really I didn't do a singing audition. I was so scared to sing in an audition, so I just didn't do it. Did the dancing audition, loved that. So anything where I can dance a little bit would be fun.
You know who Laura would be really good for? The same person that you would be good for. Princess Winifred.
Oh, yeah, she'd be great. I'm pretty much convinced if we both try out, she's getting it, and I'll be okay with it.
What?
And
Once Upon a Mattress?
Mattress.
That's my
I've
dream.
never actually seen it.
Oh, it's a darling. But I love Carol Burnett. Carol Burnett was the person that taught me you don't have to be pretty to be funny. Because growing up, I had a long face. I was skinny. I was just awkward. And I was shaped like her. And I was like, she's funny and she can be an entertainer. And it's all okay. The way she looks is the way I look. So this was her first Broadway role. And I was like, I want to do that part. But it's a huge dance role.
Maybe someday. I don't know.
You'd be so good for it, too. Do you have a favorite role so far that you've done?
This goes back to my college days. I'm just thinking about a role that just meant a lot to me when I did it. And it was the Beauty Queen of Lebanon, and I played Maureen in that. And it's a straight play, and it's Irish. It's very dark, that dark humor. That role was really complex and fun for me to play. I got to be a bad guy, which was unique for me. I was never cast I was the damsel in distress, basically, up until that point. And so then it was really fun to play somebody who was conflicted and dark and all these things. That was kind of a fun. I really can't think of one at TTD. They all stand out for different reasons. I loved being an arsenic. That was really different for me. And it was a great character acting kind of role because I had family members who didn't even recognize me in that play. And so it's fun to disappear that much into a character.
Which, for people who don't know, in Arsenic and Old Lace, you played somebody who was, how old was she?
She was in her 70s, and I was 34, 35.
You would have been, it was 2016, so you would have been turning 36.
36. I was turning 36 that year, which Elizabeth Irvin was a magician with makeup, and I really did look like I was in my 70s. So, and that part was a lot of fun. I felt like that was a really big role to come out of the gate with because I hadn't been on stage in 20 years. Or not 20 years, but long time, 15 years.
What was the most challenging part of that role?
Learning the lines, for sure. It had a lot of lines. And my husband, he did help me out a lot with that one. He doesn't like to do that very much. And I love him, but
heavy in dialogue.
yes, very heavy in dialogue.
Stuff that had lowered our attention span.
Yeah.
We liked that kind of stuff back then.
And it was, and Abby really drove a lot of the scene switching and stuff like that. So that was challenging, but it helped me reconnect with my process again too, because it was such a character role. And I've talked to Ashley about this before, kind of like what I'm doing when I'm looking at a role, and I try to find the character's voice and physicality. And once I find those, and just always keep in mind, what do they want? What are they trying to get in this scene? What are they trying to achieve? It's like stepping into a costume, your physicality and your voice. And once you do that, it's like the character takes care of themselves a little bit. So that was a lot of fun.
Do you have any other hobbies or hidden talents?
Hidden talents is a broad umbrella of things. Hobbies, I do a lot of advocacy for public education and the teaching profession, which is kind of like a hobby to me. I do that quite a bit. I like to play the ukulele when I get a chance of it. I've got several of them at home. My husband gave me my first ukulele for my 32nd birthday, I think. I think I have 7 now.
Look at you go.
I know. They're all hanging on my wall at home, and I'll take them down every now and then and play them. And it's fun for me. I would like to say I'm a great proficient, but that I'm not. And I don't really care if I don't get any better at it. I just have fun playing them when I can, you know.
What makes acting so appealing to you? Why is it something that you can't not do?
I like that it makes me think about things. You have to be, I was talking to Ashley about this the other day. You have to be a really good reader to be a good actor. You have to be able to read in between the lines. And I've always loved reading, and so acting kind of goes along with that for me. I like figuring out how to make something real, and that's kind of solving problems too. I love to solve problems, and that's one of the things that acting is like a puzzle in a way. Have to figure out how do I know that I'm supposed to go from this side of the stage to the other side of the stage, but how do I do that where I'm not just walking across the stage? It has to make it look real is an obstacle to overcome, and so I enjoy solving those little puzzles when I'm acting.
And that's something that I find the most interesting about the stage is that a lot of people don't think of it that way. Like when you see somebody moving across the stage, you don't think they did that in a particular way for a particular reason. They think they walked across the stage, you know?
Right.
And it's not something that you would think about in real life either. Like I have to go this specific way for this specific reason. It's just you do.
You just do it, yeah.
And it's neat to break it down to that level. Break a person
It's also
down.
neat to see, you're talking about break a person down to that level. And even so far as to play someone who just has really different beliefs than you do personally. I know the character I'm playing right now, she's deeply religious. I'm not. So that's been really interesting to find the truth in that so that it's not so much a caricature of a religious person,
Right.
but trying to find the truth in her faith.
Right.
Doing something that you would never, ever do in real life. Using a stun gun on somebody.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like things like that you would never do in real life that you get to do when you're an actor.
Well, and that kind of goes back to what you said earlier about how, you said it's fun to play somebody with different beliefs, but you also said it's fun to be bad. And I think it's also fun to be the dumb one on stage, to play the dummy. That is very fun.
She's a very intelligent person to play dummy.
That was, I think that was a note that Ashley kept giving me in White Christmas is like you're acting too smart for Judy. And she was right. And it is hard, not that I'm like incredibly intelligent, but I think Judy, she wanted her to be that dumb blonde, dumb brunette kind of person.
Simple. She just had basic things that she wanted.
Eat, sleep, boys.
Yes.
Get it done.
Yes.
So let's talk about the show. So He Needed Killin. How would Melissa summarize the show?
How would Melissa, okay, so my character Melissa would say that He Needed Killing is all about her desperation to protect her son and for her husband to come home. Those are the only two things that she really cares. And her friends too. But in her very core, it's protecting her son and getting her husband back. Those are the things that she wants most.
What do you feel are the themes of the show?
Definitely friendship. And that is, it's really just about this group of friends, right? And how one of the characters says at one point, so you would basically take a bullet for her. And they all agree that yes, they would. So I think it's not just friends in the good times, but how do friends come together in the bad times and really help usher each other through really difficult situations. And I've never personally had a friend that I've known that's been going through abuse that I've known about. I'm sure, statistically, I have. To have known about it is something very different. And it's easy to kind of sit back and say, and place judgment on a person and say, well, obviously they should do this, or I would do this if I was in that situation. But the truth is, none of us really know until we're in that situation. So I think these friends, you see them navigating these questions. How do we help someone without alienating her more? Because there's that risk, right? You try to do too much and that friend completely pulls away from you. So you can't always go in with and hit something really hard and heavy, even if you think you need to. It's more nuanced than that. And so these friends are trying to figure that out. And so I think that's probably the biggest theme in this show. If I had to put a verb to it, which is something my drama professor always made us do, it's like summarize the play in one verb, because that's what you do. I would say that it's about becoming, because all of the characters are transforming a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're becoming maybe something a little bit different than they were at the beginning.
Yeah. I was like, wow. And I like that you pointed out that it's something that none of us really know what it would be like or what we would do. And I think it's important that we see the side of it that this is presenting of the friends, because we see a lot of advocacy for women who are in these situations. We don't see a lot of, okay, you as a friend, this is what you can do for that person. And I think that's something that we need to see more of. So
Absolutely. Yeah. I think the play, its scope is dealing with this friend kind of making the initial transition to a better place.
Right.
But you really get the sense at the end of the play that these other women around her are not just like, okay, we got her through that, now we're done. Like, you really get the sense that they're going to be there for the next hurdle that she's got to jump over in life on her own, or in her next phase, or whatever she's going to be moving on to next.
And I think that it's really important, too, to see how real people would react, because when, if someone said, what would you do? You say, well, I'd tell her to leave him. But it's not always that simple.
No.
And I like that these characters don't make it that simple. And I think that's a huge part of, back to what you said, the theme is, it's about friendship and about how these women handled this particular situation. Do you have a favorite line or scene?
It doesn't have to be yours.
Yes. It does not have to be yours, it can be anybody's.
Okay. Gosh, there are so many good lines. I don't know. I will tell you that the taser scene has become my favorite one. It was the most difficult one to get to that point. My character is such a ball of nerves. And to keep up the moment, especially when you're working through remembering your lines and other people remembering their lines, to keep up the frenetic energy is just really, really hard. It's difficult and it's taxing. But we've gotten to a place now where we can really play with it, I think. And so it's definitely become my favorite since we've gotten to that point. I love it when Ruth confronts Frank and just says, I would hate to shoot somebody by mistake, and is just staring him down. And I just think, like, gosh, everybody needs a Ruth in their life.
Yes, they do.
She is so amazing. And my Nancy does it so well. I love her so much. I really do. And I've gotten to play her sister, and now I get to play her friend. And she's just a delight to work with. Everybody is, but I've got to say that about Nancy. She's just delightful and funny.
Oh, she's
my
so funny.
gosh. She has me in stitches
She can't remember
on the
names.
regular.
She cannot.
Remember names.
We are lucky to have her as our own Ruth. She is our Ruth.
She is.
On stage and off of it.
She's really funny.
Do you think that Frank is a believable villain?
I do, in a lot of ways, because I think, just to go back to what we talked about earlier with me saying I don't have any friends who've been, obviously I have. And it's been because, the reason I haven't known is because they've been with an abuser who is charming, who pulls out all the stuff that everybody wants to see so that you would never, ever believe a negative word was said about him. So, and that way I think Frank is very believable. And I think he follows a lot of patterns that a bully would follow, in that he just constantly tears down the other person. I think he's believable, for sure.
How would you react if your best friend was Luetta?
I think I would be open for and watchful for them to make a move toward me. But then that scenario could change depending on their circumstances too. Are there young children in the home? Are they in danger as well? I used to take kung fu class. And so we had been doing sparring and whatever. I had bruises all over my forearms. And I also would swim in the morning before work. And so I was at the pool getting ready to go swim, and I'm just minding my own business, and this woman comes up to me and she like she just stops me and she says, "Are you okay?" And it meant a lot to me, but she noticed my bruises and she had the guts to say something to me, somebody that she didn't know at all. So I think that just looking out for those kinds of things could be helpful too.
What is challenging about bringing this script or Melissa to life?
I think that sometimes Melissa can seem like a laughable character, because as her friends are sitting around talking about, like, why on earth would she wait 2 years for a man who just disappeared? I can see how a character like that could turn into one of ridicule. The challenge to me is to make her likable and to have those things. And not that she isn't likable, but it would be easy to make her judgmental or too annoying. And I think I was going down that path for a few rehearsals, on, just trying to find my way, finding the thing that's likable about her and making that come out has been challenging. And I don't really understand her all the time either. So I really had to kind of dig deep into her and try to figure out what she's all about.
Well, and that's something that comes with playing an opposite of yourself. So, and I think you're doing really well with it.
Oh, thank you.
So, why did you want to be a part of Needed Killin?
I was excited about being in a play that had never been done before. I had really intended to take the summer off and kind of like hang out with my family and recover from teaching and all that stuff. But I really couldn't pass that up. And I thought that it had a lot of energy about it. And I know the playwrights, and I know their sense of humor. And I just think that they're both tremendously funny women, and I knew that they would write something solid.
What do you consider to be your strengths and your weaknesses when it comes to the stage?
I think my strength is that I have some experience to draw from, and just being able to, I think the biggest thing that actors struggle with at first is connecting with other actors on the stage. And also finding the pacing of what they're doing. And so I'm able to do those things pretty well because I've had a lot of practice at it. It's just something that after a while you just know some tricks. You know that you should always be listening to what the other person is saying. You should be reacting while they're talking, not wait for them to stop talking and then react and then do your line, which is what the pattern a lot of people fall into when they're first starting out. So I think my strength is I have that kind of experience. And I have not trying to build up a big resume, but I did dance for a long time, and I've done weird things like kung fu that helped me be the fight choreographer for this show. Just having broad experiences like that, I think really helps. For me, something I feel probably least confident about is my singing, because I don't have a lot of formal training with that at all, and I haven't done it a lot. I've done one musical since high school, and that was White Christmas.
Let it be known that this woman has a beautiful voice.
No, really, I'm not, please, I'm not fishing for compliments, truly. I think I had a lot of people helping me out, and I worked really hard. Like, my daughter knew all the songs better than I did because I was practicing all the time at home. I hate calling it a weakness, but I guess something I'm working on.
There's a quote, and I could not tell you who said it. For some reason, my brain goes to Bob Dylan.
That's a good place to go.
Yeah, right? And he said, the second you believe that you're good, you're not good anymore.
Oh, yeah, I can. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's probably, I think of that quote at least twice a day. My brain is like an ever-growing one, and I always like, okay, what can I do next? I'm never a completion person. I'm a what is next person. That's what that reminded me of. I just had to...
Yeah, growth mindset.
Had to say
really
that.
Important.
Who is a celebrity that you would like to see tackle the role of Melissa?
Oh, man, I thought you were going to ask me about my celebrity crush, and I was all prepared for that one.
Adding that?
Hugh Jackman, yes.
Of course.
Gerard Butler, I really like Alexander Skarsgård. He's a good actor, too.
Yeah.
And Richard Armitage, I love him. He is a great actor. I've been watching interviews with him talking about he's so intelligent and talking about his acting process, and it's been really, I love thoughtful actors like that. Somebody who really just thinks about their craft and what they're doing. And he's one of them. I love him because I love period dramas.
North and South?
Yes. North and South. Have you seen him in that? I fall in love with him every time I watch
That's what
it.
I recognize him from. I'm like, oh yeah.
That's him.
That's you.
That's
I
the guy.
remember you.
Mr. Thornton. Yes. Heavenly Day. So, yeah.
So, crushes aside, who would you like to be Melissa? So those are who you would like to see as Bill.
Oh,
would you
yes.
like to see as
Oh, no.
Melissa?
Well, if Richard Armitage is Bill, I better be Melissa because, no, I'm not giving that up to anyone. Okay. So, this is going to sound really weird, but I think Tina Fey would be funny.
And what's funny is that I said Amy Poehler would be good as Amelia. That's what I said.
Yeah, you did.
I love Amy Poehler, too.
What will your audience be thinking about in the car as they drive home after the show?
I think they're going to be thinking about the relationships the characters built, but also just how we did some of these things. I mean, there's a huge fight scene. I think probably the biggest that TTD's ever had on stage.
The longest, for sure. The other one was
Yes.
in Arsenic, and it wasn't that long.
That's right. And it wasn't that long.
And it didn't have as many people.
No, the fight scene, everybody is participating in that. So I think they're going to be talking about that. I think, and I'm hoping they are asking questions about how they view this topic.
Right, of
and
course.
so I think that's going to be on their minds a lot. And I think everybody is going to have, I can't take credit for this, but Emma Woods was talking about how she sees people she knows in all of these characters. I think that's what they're going to be talking about too. They're going to be relating to these characters in a very real way, I hope, and drawing those connections between these characters and their real life.
So you were talking about how there is a huge fight scene in He Needed Killin, which you had the opportunity to choreograph. Tell me a little bit about that.
It was interesting for me. I'd never done anything like this. Well, I don't want to say never. I guess I did. I didn't have a fight coordinator for Miracle Worker. There weren't really fights in there, although I mean the breakfast scene between Helen Keller and Annie Sullivan is practically a fight.
Oh yeah.
William Gibson did a great job of really laying out exactly what they were supposed to do. So I just had to keep them safe. I succeeded for the most part. We had some issues with doll heads and things like that, but for the most part,
And a broken plate.
oh yeah, and the broken plate. I forgot about the plate. Being the fight coordinator was my number one job is to keep people safe and to try to make it look interesting. I hesitated from saying real or believable because at some point everybody knows that people are not really getting beat up on the stage, but it needs to look interesting and look like it's flowing well.
Right.
And a lot of it's about sleight of hand and playing with angles that the audience can't see and that kind of thing. I came at it from a safety standpoint, and then I just used some tricks I'd picked up from acting before. Like, it's always the person getting attacked who's in charge, not the person attacking. Yeah. They're never in charge. And I used a lot of kung fu stuff too from my kung fu days, I guess, especially in the Bill and Fernando fight sequence with the knife blocking and not actually completing it like we would have practiced doing, but something that looks like something that a movement that looks like something someone would actually do to defend themselves. So, and that's challenging because you don't know what experiences other people are bringing. So you have to kind of meet them where they are and say, well, what are you comfortable with doing? Because, their agent didn't come to me beforehand and tell me what they can do and can't do. So I have to kind of work with what I have at the time.
Take me through that, because there's not a lot of times where we have huge fight scenes like this. So how do you break down choreographing a fight?
You break it down into the participants. So like in my notes, I went through and I tried to take what Ashley and Rebecca had put in the script and use it as much as possible. There were a couple of times where I was like, it's calling for a tackle here, but I don't really know how to do that safely with actors. And they were really gracious and gave a lot of leeway with that. But you really you focus on the individual movements, almost like they're on a microscope. And for me, I just kind of forgot about anything else that was happening on the stage if it wasn't in that sequence of movements. And I let Ashley have the final say with that because she sees the bigger picture of what's happening in the scene as a whole. So I would take down just the individual interactions between 2 or 3 characters, and we would just work that as like a tiny little sequence, and then we would kind of piece them all together. The fight choreography was really one of my favorite parts of working on this show. It was so much fun to be able to do that, and I was really impressed with how the actors took to it also. They really just were pretty open-minded about what I was asking them to do, and I felt really bad for Brian at the end of that because, I mean, poor Brian, he suffered, and he really suffered like a champ. So thank you to Brian.
I just realized something. I asked you about any other hobbies, and you said you didn't really have any, but you're not just an actor.
I'm not?
No.
What else am I?
You gotta help me out here. Because you've directed before.
Yes. I have directed.
I'm trying to make a segue.
Oh, we're segueing. Oh, okay.
What else?
Yes.
What else? Tell me more.
That's funny.
Okay.
Yeah, I directed a show with TTD called The Miracle Worker, and it was...
The greatest experience of my life.
I was going to say that the show just came out amazing, I thought. And I feel like the audience just really connected with it. And that has more to do with the actors than it does me. But I just was so pleased with how it all came together and really proud of the end result. It was, I mean, directing is a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, for sure. That was a pretty amazing end result to that effort. So I was happy with that.
And I would say, would you ever do it again? But you are doing it again.
Oh, look at you, so sneaky. Yes, I am. So Frankenstein is going to be, I think, just a lot of fun. It is, it's something really different that TTD has never done before, and it's a radio play format. So and I've always grown up listening to like Prairie Home Companion, and I love the radio plays that they would do on that show. And so I was really excited to have the opportunity to do this. And it's going to be playing the last weekend in October, the 25th, 26th, and 27th.
So explain, because we have seen so many different Frankensteins
Oh, okay.
in time. So explain what the radio play version looks like. What does that mean?
Okay, so what the audience is going to see when they come into the theater is it's not really going to have a set, but we are going to have, like, the actors are going to be seated with their scripts, and they're going to be...
Yeah, seated or standing?
They can do either. Like, they're going to have, like, stools so that they can sit down. But all of the sound effects are going to be produced live. So we're going to have 2 Foley artists who are going to be producing the... Foley artist is named after the king of all sound effects, and I can't remember his first name, but his last name was Foley, and he basically created this art form of creating sound effects live for a live audience. In the play Frankenstein, when the ship is sailing and you hear wind, there will be people on stage creating this wind effect with props. So all the sound effects that you hear are going to be live. That is really exciting to me. So I'm really looking forward to that experience, and it kind of gives me the opportunity to do, again, something I've never done before. So,
Which, to anyone who went and saw Annie, this style is very similar to the beginning of the second act of that show.
yes.
So
Yes.
That
Thank
gives
you
you
for that
something to
reminder. I had forgotten
to.
about that part in Annie. Yes. And if you get the opportunity, I've been watching videos of people making sound effects, but if you're listening to this and you want to see what I'm talking about, just go look on YouTube, Foley Artist, and you're going to see some crazy stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Like really interesting stuff that these people can do with sound.
So for the rapid fires, it doesn't have to be your honest answer. Just the first thing that pops into your head.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Ready?
I'm ready.
What is your favorite meal?
Pizza. Anytime. Or, no. Can I change my answer? Brunch. I could eat breakfast food all the
Really?
time. All the time. I love it. Everything breakfast. Waffles, pancakes, eggs, omelets,
I hate
quiche.
pancakes.
I love it all.
I hate
Biscuits.
pancakes, and I'm not a big egg person. I like egg whites.
I don't know if we can be friends, Brie.
I'm sorry, okay?
I love breakfast.
Most quotable movie.
Pride and Prejudice.
All right. Be different, why don't you?
Or The Princess Bride.
Yep. That's what everybody said. Which I didn't know. I mean, I knew a lot of people love The Princess Bride, but I didn't know everybody loved The Princess Bride.
I don't know anyone that doesn't like it.
Best book you've read lately.
It's sad that I'm an English teacher and I don't know how to answer that question. I reread The Bean Trees with my class last year, and I do love that book. It has some problems, but I really do love it. It's funny. It's meaningful. So I loved reading it again.
What was your favorite cartoon as a kid? Or show, if you didn't really watch cartoons.
I guess I liked Muppet Babies.
That was fun.
I loved Muppet Babies on Saturday morning. Yeah, it was cute.
Oh, there's nothing better than a Saturday and Sunday morning and getting up and watching the cartoons early in the morning,
Yes.
eating a bowl of cereal. Oh my goodness.
That was one, yeah.
If you could have any animal as a pet, not a dog or a cat, what would you have?
Sloth.
Whoa, she
I
was
love
on
them.
it.
They are so adorable.
They are
There is a sloth sanctuary in Costa Rica that I will go there someday.
Let's go.
You can hold baby sloth. They wear little diapers. They hang on things. They're adorable. And I did get to touch a sloth one time. And I don't know why. It was this like random time these animals were coming through my college. Like not wild. There was a group there.
Was it
who
during finals week?
Maybe.
Because we do that too.
It was really interesting, but they had a sloth. They are just adorable, lovely creatures.
Do you have any historical heroes?
It changes all the time when I learn things, like this book, Hidden Figures, that was then turned into a movie.
Yes.
Those women were amazing, and I think that they are probably my heroes right now. Just kind of collectively, that bunch.
I think mine would be, they're really lame. They're really lame ones. It's like, of course you would say that. Joan of Arc and Eliza Schuyler.
I don't know who Eliza Schuyler is.
Yes, you do. Alexander Hamilton's wife.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Which I liked her before I liked this whole thing before that musical, so don't even give me that, but. Coke or Pepsi?
Neither. Yuck.
Okay.
No.
You're in a desert and a genie just showed up with a Coke and a Pepsi. Which one
I
you
would
taking?
pop open a cactus. I guess a
my
Coke. I guess I'd have a Coke.
What would you
See?
drink instead?
Water or tea or coffee.
Oh, you're a boring person. Okay.
I guess if that's what you want to call it. But I don't know. Sodas just don't do it for me. They leave me thirstier than I was before I started.
If you could live in any decade, but with modern technology advances, which one would you pick?
You know, I've thought about this a lot because I do love historical fiction. I would not want to go back in time anywhere because I'm a woman. I think I'd rather just stay where I am right here. And for the most part, I was pretty sure that things were getting better. I don't know. You can get back to me on that one, but I think things are, I'm going to stay hopeful and positive. So I'll stay right here. Thanks very much.
What is your biggest addiction? Let's talk about that, Laura.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So those of you who know me know I'm addicted to popsicles. And it's really embarrassing. And, I had to endure the look from my husband today when we were in Kroger, and here I come with another bag of popsicles. He said, I thought you said no more this summer. And I said, I did.
But summer's
I
the best
can't.
time.
I can't stop. I love them. So.
Can I tell the story?
What story?
The story of when I saw you out one day and then you told me. Can I tell the story?
Yeah, you can.
So Laura was the director of the membership dinner show, which I was in. I was in the cast of that one. And we were at rehearsal one day and she was talking about her love for popsicles. And she was just, you could see a sparkle in this woman's eyes. She loves her popsicles. And she said, but guess what? I haven't had one in like 3 weeks. And I was like, I'm so proud of you. Like, I was giving her all the applause. She was doing great. And I left rehearsal, went to the Dollar General, which is in Pleasureville by my house and by Laura's house and Ashley's house, and we all have our little Pleasureville posse. But I was going into there and met Laura Beth at the door, and she was coming out, and she goes, "Oh my goodness." She said, "You're going to be so disappointed in me." And I said, "Why?" And I was like so concerned. And she pulls up her dollar store bag out from behind her where she was hiding it, and she goes, and pulls out a box of popsicles.
I fell off the wagon hard that night. I did, and I have not been able. I've gone at most 3 days without a popsicle since then. It's bad. It's so bad.
It was so funny.
I'm gonna get cavities. I really need to stop. Oh my gosh.
I love popsicles. Oh goodness. Okay. Where do you go to think?
I take a walk. I've got a little trail on our farm, and I go whenever it's tolerable and not rain. If it's pouring rain, I find it hard to take a walk, but it takes me about half an hour to do the loop, and I just walk it out. I don't listen to music or anything. I just go and I think, and if I need to hash out something in my head, that's where I try to get it done. Although I would be lying if I didn't say that it sometimes happens at 1:30 in the morning when I'm lying in bed looking up at the ceiling, just running through a scenario in my head, and I'm going to say this and this and this, and so I do have trouble turning that off.
I do too.
But I find that if I do a little bit of yoga every day and try to take a walk whenever I can, it helps that. So
Do you see yourself as a leader or a follower?
I think I'm more of a follower, although don't give me that look. Although
She's getting the looks over here.
I'm really trying to develop my leadership skills. If people think I'm a leader, I don't think it's something that I do naturally, but I do have a desire to work with people and bring people together to achieve a goal. And that's something that I'm really going to be focusing on for the next couple of years.
What did you eat for breakfast?
I had egg and toast and spinach and some cucumbers.
If you could add any word to the dictionary, what would it be and what would it mean?
Melancholy, for sure. I
Oh,
would replace melancholy with melancholy in a heartbeat.
Just mean the same thing?
Yeah,
Just a different fruit?
replace it. I think it's an improvement.
Although melancholy sounds a lot happier.
No, melancholy to me is like it's a sour sadness.
Oh.
Melancholy is like a sweet sadness. Melancholy is like I'm bitter about being sad.
What is your best advice for other actors?
My best advice is to observe what goes on around you and to just do your best to connect with your actors on stage, because that's always going to make them better, and it'll make you better as well.
What is your advice to other directors or people who want to direct?
Get help. Ask for help. Set boundaries. Just don't feel like you're bugging other people. I mean, maybe you are, but that you're the director. It's your job. Don't try to do everything yourself, because you'll never want to do it again if you do that. You've got to ask for help and lean on people. I know I would have been lost without Charla Witt, as she stage managed Miracle Worker, and I was so grateful to have her to lean on, because she was amazing.
If you could tell the child version of yourself, so 10-year-old Laura, if you could tell her anything, what would you tell her?
I would tell her to not worry so much about pleasing other people, and tell her that you're worth following that dream, and don't worry so much about trying to do what other people want you to do.
If you knew you could not fail, what would you do?
A couple of things. I would write a book, and I would host a travel show.
Really?
Yes.
Yeah, what kind?
Well, I used to have this idea for a platform. It would be like travel on a shoestring. Like, how could you make Europe the most affordable that you could make it, and still have a quality vacation? I used to watch Samantha Brown Passport Europe all the time when that was on. I don't know what happened to that show or that channel, if it even exists anymore, but I used to love watching it, and I used to think, Oh my gosh, that would just be an ideal job. You just travel around and review places and show people what they need to do to have an amazing time. So I'd want to do that.
That is all I have. So thank you so much for appearing on Getting Real.
This is really fun. Thank you.
That wraps up our very first series of interviews for Getting Real. Special thanks to Laura Adams, and also to the rest of the cast and crew of He Needed Killin, who made their way out to our little library studio for conversations about life, theater, and all the things we do in between. We hope you've enjoyed getting to know the people behind the shows. A final thank you to the sponsors of He Needed Killin: Cedar Lake, Starview Greenhouses, and United Citizens Bank and Trust. Auditions for Frankenstein, a radio show, were last night, so Bree and I will be sitting down with some of the main players very soon. Let us know in the comments what you'd like to see us keep as part of the interview process, or maybe what you'd like us to focus on next time. This episode of Getting Real was executive produced, edited, and written by me, Ashley Raymer-Brown.
It was produced and co-written by me, Bree Highshoe.
Music was provided by Final Cut Pro, and artwork was created by Ashley Raymer-Brown. That's me, and Bree Highshoe.
That's me.
Getting Real is a separate entity from the Theatre Downstream. The thoughts and opinions of the hosts and guests are their own and do not reflect the thoughts and opinions of the Theatre Downstream or the sponsors of their shows. Thanks for listening.
Different as can be. Beat it now! Okay. Frank was a two-faced, blowhard jerk. Louetta as lovely as a dream. And why she married him is lost on us all. And why she stuck around was hard to say. Louetta is too kind to ever say a word. Frank wouldn't listen anyway. Here in the South, we have ourselves a saying, and it's true even if it sounds absurd. And you northern folk might think that we're simply playing, but when uttered we mean every single word. Have a way of working out, and he needed killing, and killing's what this show is about. They say that a diamond is a lady's best friend, and in most cases that might just be true. But that can't be said of Louetta these days. She has the friends who know just what to do. Because ladies in the South, they keep to themselves and try to maintain their dignity. But when push comes to shove and the chips are all down, they might just commit a felony. Yes, they would. Killing, even if no one was willing. But things have a way of working out, and he needed killing, and killing's what this show is about.